The vast darkness of space held many secrets, but none more surprising than the small blue planet at the edge of an unremarkable spiral arm. For centuries, the Galactic Concordat had expanded without serious challenge. Their ships moved from system to system, bringing planets into their fold, sometimes through diplomacy, sometimes through force. Admiral Jex stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dawn watching the view screen as the blue-green world grew larger. Earth, they called it. A simple name for what appeared to be a simple world. "Preliminary scans complete, Admiral," said Lieutenant Taro, looking up from his console. "One dominant species. Primitive space travel capabilities. They've barely reached their own moon." Admiral Jex nodded. "The usual story, then. Prepare the standard greeting package." But Taro frowned, tapping at his screen. "Sir, there's something strange about their energy readings. They're developing weapons far beyond their space technology level." "Interesting," Jex said, stroking his chin. "Perhaps they fight among themselves rather than reach for the stars." The Concordat had seen this before, species that turned their scientific progress inward rather than outward. Such worlds were typically easy to bring into the fold. They often welcomed the stability the Concordat offered. "Open communications," Jex ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves." 3 days later, the first meeting between humans and the Concordat took place via video transmission. Ambassador Lin represented the Concordat with all the pomp and ceremony befitting the civilization spanning 17 star systems. The humans sent a single representative. Director Bell, a plain-looking man in a simple dark suit. "On behalf of the Galactic Concordat, I bring greetings," Ambassador Lin began, her translator converting her words to the human's primary language. "We offer you membership in our prosperous alliance. Your world will benefit from our advanced technology, medical knowledge, and protection." Director Bell listened politely, hands folded on the table before him. When Ambassador Lin finished, he simply asked, "And if we decline?" The question caught Lin off guard. In her experience, less advanced worlds jumped at the opportunity to join the Concordat. "I'm afraid declining isn't a practical option," she explained. "The benefits of membership far outweigh any temporary discomfort of cultural adjustment." "So it's not really an invitation," Bell noted. "It's a demand with a polite face." Admiral Jex stepped into view. "Director Bell, perhaps I can be more direct. The Concordat comprises over 40 billion citizens across 17 systems. Our fleet includes 300 capital ships. Your world, while charming, has no means to resist should we decide your membership is necessary." Bell didn't seem troubled by this information. Instead, a small smile formed on his lips. "Admiral, we have a saying on Earth. Appearances can be deceiving. We've spent our history fighting each other instead of exploring space. The result is that we're very, very good at war." Jex laughed. "All species have conflicts. It's why they eventually need the Concordat's stability." "Our conflicts have been different," Bell replied. "We've split atoms to destroy our cities. We've created biological weapons that could empty continents. We've designed autonomous weapons that learn as they kill. And those are just the weapons we've restricted." Bell leaned forward, his friendly demeanor fading. "We united our planet not because we found peace, but because we recognized something worse than each other might exist out here. We've been preparing for this meeting for over a century." "Are you threatening the Concordat?" Lin asked, genuinely surprised. "No," Bell said simply. "I'm giving you good advice. Run. Turn your ships around. Mark our solar system as protected or forbidden, or whatever designation keeps your people away. Because if you force this issue, Admiral, you'll learn why no species in this galaxy should ever fight humans." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Eternal Dawn in stunned silence. The grand meeting chamber of the Eternal Dawn buzzed with nervous energy. 24 high-ranking officials of the Galactic Concordat sat around the circular table, their faces showing varying degrees of concern. Admiral Jex stood at the head of the table, waiting for silence. "You've all seen the recording of our talk with the human representative," Jex said once the room quieted. "Now we need to decide if their warning has any truth to it." General Mord, a veteran of 3 system conquests, laughed. "How can it? They haven't even settled their neighboring planets. Their ships use chemical rockets. It would take them years to reach even the closest star. That doesn't mean they can't defend their own world," pointed out Intelligence Director Vela. She tapped her screen, and a hologram appeared above the table showing Earth's orbital space. "In the 3 days since our contact, they've moved dozens of satellites into new positions. They're preparing defenses. Against our technology." "Impossible," scoffed Mord. Ambassador Lin, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "I've been studying their broadcasts. Their entertainment is disturbing. They seem to enjoy stories about fighting against invaders. They have thousands of books, movies, and games about defeating technologically superior enemies. Fiction doesn't win wars," Mord said dismissively. "No, but it shows how they think," Lin replied. "And I've never seen a species so fixated on preparing for a fight they didn't know was coming." Jex nodded to Science Officer Pax, who stood up with his findings. "Let me show you something interesting about human history," Pax said, bringing up a timeline. "Most species develop weapons and exploration technology at roughly the same rate. Not humans." The timeline showed a dramatic spike in weapons development compared to space travel. They split the atom in 1945. By 1969, they'd reached their moon. But then something strange happened. Their space programs slowed while their weapons kept advancing. They've created kinetic, chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons that far outpace their publicly acknowledged space capabilities. Intelligence Director Vela added, "And those are just the weapons they admit to having. My team has detected energy signatures suggesting far more advanced systems hidden throughout their system." General Mord's confidence seemed to waver. "So they're well armed for a primitive species. The Concordat has faced resistance before." "Not like this," Pax said quietly. "Look at their historical conflicts." A hologram shifted to show Earth's major wars. In their Second World War, they lost over 70 million people. That's more than the entire population of some of our member worlds. And they kept fighting. Their tolerance for casualties exceeds anything in our records. Admiral Jex walked around the table, considering the information. "What's your recommendation, Intelligence Director?" Vela looked up from her notes. Their Director Bell wasn't bluffing. They've been preparing for alien contact, specifically hostile contact, for decades. They've hidden military installations on their moon, on Mars, and throughout their asteroid belt. They've developed weapons specifically designed to target ships like ours. How could they know our weaknesses? Mord demanded. "They've been watching us," Vela said simply. "Our standard approach isn't as secret as we thought. They've studied our ships from afar and designed countermeasures." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Admiral Jex spoke. "Let's test their capabilities. Not a full invasion, just a demonstration of our power. We'll target their Mars colony. It's small, mostly automated. If they surrender after seeing what one of our ships can do, we'll know their warning was empty." Ambassador Lin looked troubled. "And if they don't surrender?" Jex didn't answer immediately. He stared at the hologram of Earth, turning slowly on its axis, seemingly peaceful, but possibly hiding more danger than any world they'd encountered. "Then," he said quietly, "we might need to consider whether Director Bell was giving us good advice after all." The cruiser Swift Justice approached Mars slowly, its engines pulsing with blue energy against the blackness of space. Captain Dren stood on the bridge, watching the red planet grow larger on the main view screen. Unlike Earth with its blue oceans and white clouds, Mars looked barren and defenseless. "Scanners show the human colony is located in Valles Marineris," reported Navigator Trell. "Population approximately 200 humans. Minimal defenses detected." Captain Dren nodded. Perfect for our demonstration. Open a channel to Earth and the Mars colony simultaneously. Let them witness what happens when worlds defy the Concordat. The communications officer worked his console, then nodded. Channel open, Captain. They're receiving. Thren straightened his uniform and faced the camera. People of Earth, this is Captain Dren of the Galactic Concordat vessel Swift Justice *. Your government has unwisely rejected our generous offer of protection and membership. To demonstrate the futility of resistance, we will now neutralize your Mars colony. You have 1 hour to reconsider your position before we act. He signaled for the transmission to end, then turned to his weapons officer. Prepare a low-yield plasma cannon strike, enough to destroy their main habitat dome, but not the entire colony. We want survivors to tell the tale. Yes, Captain, the officer replied, programming the targeting systems. On Mars, inside the main control room of Valles Marineris colony, Commander West watched the transmission with a calm that surprised even himself. When the alien captain finished speaking, West turned to his team. Well, they'd made their choice, he said simply. Initiate Protocol Thunderbolt. Around the room, colony staff who had appeared to be scientists and engineers moved with military precision to new stations. Walls slid open, revealing weapons consoles that hadn't been there moments before. Sir, said Lieutenant Ray from Communications, Earth Command acknowledges. We have authorization to defend ourselves by any means necessary. Commander West nodded. Activate the defense grid. Bring all systems online. Deep beneath the Martian surface, machinery that had lain dormant for years rumbled to life. In craters across the planet's surface, hidden doors opened, revealing weapon systems disguised as research equipment. Aboard the Swift Justice *, the sensor officer suddenly stiffened in alarm. Captain, multiple energy signatures appearing on the planet's surface. What? Dren moved quickly to the sensor station. That's impossible. Our scans showed nothing but basic life support systems and research equipment. The signatures were masked somehow, the officer explained, his fingers flying across the controls. I'm detecting at least 12 powerful energy sources activating across the planet's surface. Captain Dren's confidence wavered. Raise shields to maximum. Prepare evasive. He never finished his order. From the Martian surface, 3 electromagnetic pulse cannons fired simultaneously. The invisible waves washed over the Swift Justice *, bypassing its shields completely and surging through its electrical systems. The bridge lights flickered and died, replaced by dim emergency lighting. Consoles sparked and went dark. Report. Dren shouted as his ship seemed to die around him. Main power failing. The engineering officer replied, voice tight with panic. Shields down. Weapons offline. They've somehow targeted our specific shield frequency. Impossible, Dren whispered. How could they? The ship shuddered violently as something physical struck its hull. Then again, and again. Kinetic projectiles, the sensor officer reported, working with backup systems. They're firing some kind of rail guns at us. Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. From his command center beneath Mars, Commander West watched the alien ship struggling as railgun slugs tore through its armor. Hold fire, he ordered after the 8th hit. Let's see if they get the message. Aboard the crippled Swift Justice *, Captain Dren frantically ordered his crew to restore enough power for retreat. As the engines sputtered back to life, his communications officer reported, incoming transmission from Mars, Captain. On the flickering view screen, Commander West appeared, looking entirely unsurprised by the battle's outcome. Captain Dren, he said calmly, you've just attacked a training facility for our planetary defense forces. What you've experienced is approximately 5% of our defensive capability. I suggest you carry our message back to your leaders. This was your only warning. The next ship you send won't return at all. Admiral Jex paced the war room of the Eternal Dawn *, his steps quick and angry. The damaged Swift Justice * had limped back to the fleet, its hull punctured in 17 places, its systems barely functioning. The ship's captain, Dren, stood at attention, his uniform torn and stained with the blue blood of his species. "Explain to me," Jex said, his voice dangerously quiet, "how a primitive colony on Mars disabled one of our most advanced warships." Captain Dren swallowed hard. They hid their weapons. "Admiral, our scans showed nothing but research equipment and basic defense systems. When we announced our intentions, everything changed. The entire planet seemed to transform into a military base." Intelligence Director Vela, who had been reviewing the ship's sensor logs, looked up from her screen. "He's right, Admiral. The humans disguised their weapons as scientific instruments. They knew exactly what our scanners look for and designed their technology to appear harmless until activated." "That's not possible," General Mord insisted. "They couldn't have known our scanning frequencies or shield specifications." "Unless they've been studying us longer than we thought," Vela said. She brought up a holographic display showing Earth's deep space monitoring equipment. "For decades, we believed these were simple astronomical tools. Now I think they were analyzing our ships each time we passed within range of their system." Science Officer Pax joined them, carrying his own findings. "I've been examining the damage to the Swift Justice Asterisk. The weapons they used were specifically designed to target our weaknesses. Their electromagnetic pulses operated on the exact frequency to bypass our shields. Their railguns fired projectiles made of materials that maximize damage to our hull composition." Admiral Jex stopped pacing. "You're saying they've been preparing for us? Specifically us?" "Not just us," Vela said. "Everything." She activated another display showing encrypted transmissions from Earth. "We've broken some of their military communications. Listen to this." A human voice filled the room. "Concordat approach matches Scenario 12. All defense grids shift to countermeasure package Delta." "Scenario 12?" Jex asked. "They have plans for different types of alien contact," Vela explained. "They've been developing them for over 50 years. They created defensive strategies against dozens of potential alien civilizations with different technologies and tactics." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. These humans hadn't just gotten lucky. They had been preparing for this exact moment for generations. "But why?" Ambassador Lin asked. "Why would they prepare so thoroughly for a threat they couldn't have known existed?" "Because of their history," Pax answered. "I've studied their literature more carefully. Humans have a concept they call the anticipation of threat. Throughout their history, whenever two different human cultures met, the more technologically advanced one usually conquered or destroyed the less advanced one. They assumed we would behave the same way," Vela finished, "so they prepared accordingly." Admiral Jex moved to the main view screen, which showed the blue marble of Earth turning slowly. "How much of their defensive capability have we seen?" "According to our analysis of their communications," Vela said, "the Mars colony was equipped with their oldest defensive systems. They were testing our capabilities while revealing as little as possible of their own." Captain Dren, still standing at attention, finally spoke again. "Sir, when their commander contacted us after the battle, he said we had experienced only 5% of their defensive capability." "Was he bluffing?" General Mord demanded. Vela shook her head. "Our deep scans of Earth show energy signatures consistent with weapons far more powerful than what we encountered on Mars. If the commander was exaggerating, it wasn't by much." Admiral Jex turned to face his leaders, his expression grave. "We have seriously underestimated these humans. The question now is, what do we do about it?" Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the Global Defense Council gathered in Earth's most secure military facility. 20 military leaders from around the world sat at a circular table, studying holographic displays of the solar system. At the center stood General Harris, pointing to a red dot representing the alien flagship. "The asterisk Eternal Dawn asterisk has retreated to the edge of the solar system," Harris reported. They're regrouping and likely planning their next move. Admiral Jones, head of Earth's Space Force, nodded. Commander West's team on Mars performed exactly as trained. The aliens took the bait, attacked what they thought was an easy target, and learned a hard lesson. But they'll be back, said Director Bell, who had delivered Earth's initial warning to the Concordat. And next time, they won't underestimate us. General Harris tapped a control, and the hologram expanded to show the entire solar system. Blinking lights appeared throughout, on moons, asteroids, and in orbit around every planet. Then they'll face our full defensive network, Harris said. We've spent 50 years building this system. It's time to see if it works. Colonel Parker from Weapons Development stood up. All defense platforms are active and at full capacity. The Mercury heat shields are operational. The Venus atmospheric disruptors are online. The lunar railgun network is primed. Admiral Jones added, "Our fleet is in position behind Jupiter. The camouflage systems are working perfectly. The aliens still think we have no significant space combat capability." Director Bell studied the tactical display and the special projects. Dr. Wilson, a civilian scientist with military clearance, stepped forward. Project Blackout is ready. When activated, it will create an electromagnetic dead zone throughout the inner solar system. Any ship entering the zone will lose all electronic systems instantly. "What about our own systems?" asked a general from China. "Our technology is hardened against the effect," Dr. Wilson explained. "We've been designing our equipment to withstand these conditions for decades." The room fell silent as everyone contemplated what was about to happen. Humanity had spent half a century preparing for this moment, the first true test of their defenses against an alien threat. Director Bell finally broke the silence. "We need to be clear about our objective. We're not trying to destroy their civilization or start an interstellar war. We want to convince them that attacking Earth would cost more than it's worth." General Harris nodded. "Exactly. This is about deterrence. We want them to leave and never come back." Admiral Jones pointed to a section of the tactical display. "Our intelligence suggests they'll send a larger force this time, likely targeting Earth directly. They'll expect resistance but still believe their superior numbers will overwhelm us." "Let them come," said Colonel Parker. "Every weapon in our arsenal is designed specifically to counter their technology. Their ships are impressive, but they all have the same weaknesses we've had years to study and exploit." Dr. Wilson pulled up more detailed schematics. "Their shield systems are vulnerable to precisely calibrated electromagnetic frequencies. Their hull material becomes brittle when exposed to certain radiation patterns. Their sensor arrays can't penetrate our stealth materials. Most importantly," added Admiral Jones, "they think in straight lines. Their battle formations are predictable because they've never faced an enemy who could truly challenge them. We've studied every encounter they've had with other species. They always use the same tactics because they've always worked before." Director Bell looked around the table at the men and women who had dedicated their lives to preparing for this moment. "Humanity has spent its entire history fighting itself. We've become experts at war because we've had so much practice. Now, for the first time, we're united against an external threat." General Harris closed the tactical display. "The Concordat is about to learn why we warned them to run. May whatever gods they believe in have mercy on them, because we won't." Around the table, the leaders of Earth's defense forces checked their watches and prepared for war. Admiral Jex stood on the command deck of the Eternal Dawn, watching as his fleet assembled. 40 warships moved into formation, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. It was the largest battle group the Concordat had deployed in over a century. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Commander Vex, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Jex nodded. "Begin the approach." Standard conquest formation. The massive fleet began moving toward Earth, weapons charged and shields at maximum strength. Jex had spent 3 days planning this attack. He would not underestimate the humans again. We will bypass Mars completely, he told his officers. Head directly for Earth. Their main defenses must be concentrated there. The fleet accelerated, engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. As they passed the orbit of Jupiter, sensors picked up nothing unusual. No sign of resistance yet, reported the sensor officer. Wait, I'm detecting small energy signatures near Jupiter's moons. Defensive outposts? Asked Gex. No, sir. They're moving. Suddenly, the space around Jupiter's moons seemed to shimmer like air above hot ground. Where emptiness had been moments before, ships appeared, dozens of them, emerging from what looked like perfect camouflage. Impossible, whispered Commander Vex. Our scanners should have detected them. The human fleet moved with surprising speed, forming a battle line between the Concordat forces and Earth. They were smaller than the alien warships but more numerous. They have a space fleet, Gex said, shocked despite himself. All these years, they let us believe they barely had space travel capability. Before he could issue new orders, his communications officer called out, "Incoming transmission, Admiral." On the main screen appeared Admiral Jones of Earth's Space Force. Unlike Director Bell or Commander West, he wore a formal military uniform with decorations that spoke of a lifetime of service. "Admiral Gex," Jones said calmly, "your ships are entering a restricted defense zone. Retreat now or face the consequences." Gex straightened his back. "The Concordat does not retreat, human. You've hidden your capabilities well, but you're still outmatched. Our ships carry weapons that could reduce your cities to ash." "Perhaps," Jones replied, "but you'll never get close enough to use them." The transmission ended abruptly. Moments later, the real attack began, not from the human fleet, but from everywhere else. Hidden platforms throughout the asteroid belt suddenly activated, launching thousands of small, fast-moving projectiles. From Earth's moon, massive railguns fired shells the size of small buildings. Even the seemingly empty space around them came alive as cloaked defense satellites revealed themselves. "Evasive maneuvers," Gex shouted, but it was too late. The first wave of attacks didn't target the Concordat ships directly. Instead, the space around them filled with a strange, shimmering energy field. "What is that?" Vex demanded. The science officer's voice shook as he answered, "Some kind of localized disruption field. It's affecting our targeting systems." As the Concordat fleet struggled to aim their weapons, the human ships closed in. They fired with shocking precision, each shot striking exactly where the alien vessels were most vulnerable. "How do they know exactly where to hit us?" Gex demanded as his flagship shuddered under impact. "They've studied our designs," the science officer realized. "They know our ships better than we know theirs." The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. Of the 40 ships Gex had brought to conquer Earth, 23 were destroyed outright. 15 more were damaged beyond fighting capability. Only the flagship and one other vessel remained operational enough to retreat. As Gex ordered the withdrawal, a final message came through from Admiral Jones. "This was our measured response. We destroyed only what we needed to. The ships we disabled can be repaired. The crews we captured will be treated fairly. Return to your leaders with this message. Earth is not for conquest. Next time, there will be no survivors to carry our warning." One full cycle of Earth's moon passed before the Concordat leadership made their decision. The Grand Council chamber aboard the capital ship Sovereign Light buzzed with heated discussion. The defeat at Earth had shocked the entire 17-system empire. Admiral Gex, now bearing a scar across his face from the battle, stood before the High Council to make his final report. "The human victory was not luck," he stated flatly. "It was not a tactical error on our part. It was the result of decades, perhaps centuries, of preparation specifically designed to counter beings like us." Supreme Counselor Nev, the political head of the Concordat, leaned forward. "You propose something unprecedented, Admiral. In our 1,000-year history, we have never recognized a primitive world as an equal." With respect, Supreme Counselor, we must reconsider what primitive means, Jex replied. The humans devoted their technology to defense instead of expansion. They built weapons instead of colony ships. They prepared for war instead of reaching for peace. Ambassador Lin, who had been studying human culture, added her thoughts. Their history explains their mindset. For thousands of years, they fought among themselves. When one human group met another, it often ended in conquest or destruction. They naturally assumed any aliens would behave the same way. So they prepared for the worst, murmured General Mord, who had lost his flagship in the battle. His previous arrogance was gone, replaced by a new respect. After 3 more hours of debate, the decision was made. The Concordat would send a peace delegation to Earth, not to demand surrender, but to request alliance. 2 weeks later, Ambassador Lin's diplomatic vessel approached Earth, escorted by the human fleet that had once been hidden behind Jupiter. Her ship carried no weapons, a sign of trust that she hoped the humans would recognize. Director Bell met her not in a military facility, but in a grand building called the United Nations. Representatives from all Earth nations filled the chamber, watching with cautious hope as the first peaceful meeting between species began. The Galactic Concordat extends its hand in friendship. Lin began, using the human gesture deliberately. We recognize the sovereignty of Earth and the Sol system. We seek not your submission but your partnership. Director Bell studied her closely. What changed the Concordat's mind? Ambassador, just a few months ago, you were prepared to conquer us. We learned, Lin said simply. Throughout our expansion, we encountered species who either welcomed our civilization or resisted weakly before joining. You were the first to stand firm, and the first capable of inflicting serious losses on our fleet. Bell nodded. And if we had been weaker? Lin didn't hesitate. Then we would have conquered you. That has been our way. At least you're honest, Bell said with a small smile. But why seek alliance now? You have 16 other systems. You could simply avoid ours. Because we recognize something valuable in humanity, Lin replied. Your history of conflict has made you strong, but your restraint shows wisdom. You could have destroyed our entire fleet, but you disabled ships where possible and saved many lives. Admiral Jones, sitting beside Bell, spoke up. We don't desire conflict, Ambassador. We prepared for it because our history taught us to expect the worst while hoping for the best. The Concordat has much to learn from humanity, Lin acknowledged. And perhaps humanity can benefit from our knowledge of the wider galaxy. There are threats beyond our borders that would challenge even your impressive defenses. Director Bell extended his hand. Then let us begin with honest exchange. No conquests, no demands. Just 2 civilizations finding a better way forward. As Ambassador Lin took his hand, the chamber erupted in applause. Across Earth, billions watched the historic moment on screens, hope replacing the fear that had dominated recent months. In the vastness of space, word spread quickly of the species that had stopped the Concordat's expansion, not through superior numbers or technology, but through preparation, determination, and ultimately, unexpected mercy. The humans had warned the mighty empire to run, not out of arrogance, but because they understood the true cost of war better than anyone else in the galaxy.